great John Phillips is here, host KABC in Los Angeles, also the Southern California News Group writer. John, how are you, sir? So we all know that Gavin wants to be president. He's an ambitious guy, as Trump said. The question is he jockeying to get the job now, or is he patient and willing to wait till 2028 and on? What do you think?
Well, if they say that Kamala is underneath Grampy Joe's bed with an ice pick, Gavin Newsom is in the garage with some scissors and his brake lines, because Gavin Newsom is an ambitious man who wants to be president. Now, what he's doing is something that's a little bit different, I think, in reality than how it's being interpreted in conservative media. Gavin is not running against Joe Biden in 2024. Gavin is putting his chips on the number that says that Joe Biden isn't able to be the Democratic nominee in 2024, either because of some health problem, maybe he might pass away early, maybe the Democrats just say, okay, you've lost your marbles, we need to go in a different direction. Whatever the case may be, he thinks that the odds of something like that happening are great enough that if he runs essentially a shadow campaign for the presidency without ever declaring himself to be a candidate, he would be the candidate who could hit the ground running. He's proposing this constitutional amendment on gun control. That's just one big excuse to create a nationwide database of potential supporters, potential donors, people who are interested in what Gavin Newsom is doing. What he's doing is not a shot across the bow at Joe Biden. I do not believe that Joe Biden looks at Gavin Newsom as a threat. What he's doing is giving Kamala Harris a shot across the bow. Because in the event that Joe can't be the Democratic nominee, conventional wisdom is that the vice president would be the one to step in and take over. But many Democrats, of course, look at her performance and say, we can't have this slow motion train wreck as our nominee. We'd lose to any of the Republicans. So Gavin Newsom is giving Democrats an alternative in the event that Joe can't fulfill his duties and they move on from Kamala.
I think you're 100% right. And Newsom will be the guy who's just standing there like, oh, me? Oh, sure, I'll take the job, and do like this like reluctant, humble guy riding in on the white horse to save the day. I want to know if, and no one knows California and no one knows Gavin Newsom better than you. Does he have enough insider connection to the Democratic Party, the National Democratic Party, and to just the inner workings of DC. DC and California are very far away from each other, different worlds in a lot of different ways. So does he have enough connection to the DC swamp in order to be that guy who's there, ready, and willing?
Well, I'd point out two things. First is that his consultant is a guy by the name of A. Smith, who's based out of San Francisco, who handles a lot of the statewide Democrats in California. A. Smith is also Kamala Harris's strategist. A. Smith had to be dropped by Kamala Harris back when she was under consideration for the vice presidency because it was her California crew that was out planting all of these negative stories about Karen Bass, because it was her and Karen Bass on the short list. And she went out and came up with stories about Karen Bass going to Cuba and saying all of these nice things about Fidel Castro and everything else she's done wrong in her career. When she was chosen to be the vice presidential nominee, the Biden people came to her and said, all right, here's the deal. You can have the job, but no one from California is coming with you. Not your sister, not A. Smith, because they fundamentally didn't trust them. They saw what they were willing to do to Karen Bass and other Democrats, and they said to themselves, oh, you can do this against Grampy Joe if you want to. So let's take all of your political hitmen and leave them behind. Well, that left the political hitmen into the arms of Gavin Newsom. They now are the ones that run Gavin Newsom's operation. They know Kamala Harris like the back of their hand because they used to represent her. I'd also add that one of the big political players in San Francisco, who's been a longtime supporter of Gavin Newsom, is Nancy Pelosi. Now, even though Nancy Pelosi is no longer the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi is still a serious power player in Washington, D.C. politics. If you start out the race with Kamala Harris's former strategist and Nancy Pelosi in your corner, you have a huge advantage over everyone else.
Wow, very interesting. Okay. Second part of that question is, do you think the Democratic Party wants Joe Biden gone, or is it a benefit to them to have Grandpa Joe there who's easily controlled, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, it's risky. Joe is just a figurehead. They have no love for Joe the way they had for Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, for that matter. He is just the guy that they have at the top of the pyramid who's pushing their agenda. The risk, and when you're an incumbent, you have a lot of advantages. You can appoint people. It's easy to raise money. It's easy to make the news whenever you want. So never give up the power of incumbency unless you absolutely have to. The problem with him is that he is losing it so badly, you don't know what's coming next. We've seen him trip going up a flight of stairs on multiple occasions. He tries to shake hands with people who aren't there. He's sniffing everyone's head. He's trying to shake the hands of soldiers who had their arms blown off in war. It's not outside the realm of possibilities that he's going to come on TV one day and say, I just got off the phone with Lyndon Johnson and we had the great conversation and he just told me I'm doing a great job. And if he has one of those moments, something that you can't paper over, because largely DC press corps gives him a pass on all of these things, but he's so out of it that he could do something that you can't rationalize, then you're stuck with him. So it's a very risky proposition, and I think the Democrats are conflicted.
And I think Newsom's playing his cards right. We talked earlier about the Gavin Newsom-DeSantis debate. And we were also talking earlier with DeSantis' campaign manager, spokesperson. I'm worried that Republicans in general, but DeSantis specifically, are underestimating Gavin Newsom. I think they look at California like, wow, that place stinks. It's running into the ground. Gavin Newsom's terrible. He's an idiot, whatever. I don't think people realize how slick and good Gavin Newsom is. What do you think?
Yeah, Gavin Newsom is a lot of things. He's not stupid. And one thing you always have to keep in mind with Gavin Newsom is that he is a severe dyslexic. And because he's a severe dyslexic, one of the things that he does, and I've spoken with his speechwriters about this, is he memorizes everything. If you write a speech for him, he does not refer to notes. He has the ability to comprehend and to recite facts and figures and things that none of us would be able to do because we just don't have a lifetime of preparation of memorizing these things, because he can't read a teleprompter. He can't deliver a speech the way a politician would otherwise do. So he has a lot of tools at his disposal in a debate. Now, what he's going to try to do with Ron DeSantis is he is going to try to keep that debate focused on national subjects, focus it on gun control, focus it on Donald Trump, focus it on whether or not they're banning books in different states in the union. He's not going to want to talk about California. He's already mentally moved on from California. He is completely disengaged with the Sacramento press corps. He's disengaged with members of the state legislature. He doesn't want to talk about homelessness. He doesn't want to talk about crime, including all of these smash and grabs that we've seen on local news here in the last couple of weeks. He doesn't want to talk about the fires or the insurance companies pulling out. That's a story that is bad for Gavin Newsom. All Gavin Newsom wants to talk about right now are national issues because he sees himself as a national figure. And by talking about local issues, he's talking about his failures as governor, and it makes him look small. He doesn't want to look small in this debate. He wants to look big.
Great point. And great point about the dyslexic stuff. He even said in that Hannity interview, he even said, I'll do it tomorrow, no notes, 2 hours, whatever. It's like, well, yeah, of course, no notes, if that's one of your strong suits. We've got about 30 seconds. What do you make of any other challengers to Biden and just how they can screw up the game, the Cornel West, the RFKs, et cetera?
Yeah, the threat that they pose is as third-party candidates on the November ballot, because you have a lot of Democrats who aren't in love with Joe Biden. And if you aren't in love with Joe Biden, but you hate Donald Trump or whoever the Republican is, having Cornel West or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or a Joe Manchin on the ballot gives you some comfortable place to go where you don't have to vote for Biden and you don't have to vote for Trump, and you can register your protest vote. And those protest candidates would disproportionately take from Joe Biden, I believe.
Yeah, and they're a passionate group, Cornell and RFK, not ones to potentially fall in line for the sake of the party moving forward. The great John Phillips, KABC, Southern California News Group. Go follow him, read everything he writes. John, grateful for you.
Thanks for having me.
What if you had your own spy? Would you use them to keep tabs on the most important events happening around the world? Update you on exactly what you needed to know each morning so you could be smarter, more prepared, ahead of the curve. Meet CIA veteran Mike Baker. Every day he'll be your personal intelligence officer, delivering insights and analysis once reserved for the President of the United States. The President's Daily Brief with Mike Baker. Get briefed. Stay ahead. Your briefings begin on September 5th.